What's up, people? So, I'm waiting around, trying to download an archive of videos from the internet, and I got time to waste right now. I can't pick up my situation and go inside like I was about to because it's still downloading. So I'm out here, got time to waste. I was just talking about some conspiracy theory stuff, and I do that a lot because I know what's going on, and I'm trying to, wake up sheeple, whatever you want to call it. But at the same time, I know a lot beyond that. There's a lot of stuff I'm just interested in that I want to talk about well beyond that. You know what I mean? I like biology, origins of humanity, or I talk about some like metaphysical stuff. You could talk about like kind of psychic phenomena, stuff like that, kind of functions of the universe type shit. I'm about that too. I know I talk a lot about these conspiracy theories and stuff, but dude, that's really just it's because it's relevant at the time. There's real stuff going on. I know it should be talked about. People need to know what's going on. It's like current events, protectionism type stuff. And so that's why I talk about that. But I really kind of want to talk about other stuff. And so let's just talk about some other stuff. I got time. Let's talk about humans, okay? I'm at this college right now. I see humans. A lot of humans are unaware of their own real true nature of their own self, you know what I mean? I see 3 girls, they're dressed a certain way, they fit with a culture that exists, they fit perfectly with it. I'm kind of staring at them. I think they think I like them. They don't look bad. I'm not tripping. Dang, that girl almost just impaled herself with a pole by riskily jumping over it. You see what I'm talking about. I don't want to be rude and point the camera, but they're going along with the culture. They probably don't even think about it. They just, here's how I look cool. Here's how I, I have some type of social value, some type of, I wear these clothes with these, symbols, these Nike checks. I dress this way, I act this way. I'm this type of person. Here's how I'm going to portray myself as a person. A lot of people do that and they don't even really think about it. And, there's a whole, especially these youngins. You know what I mean? I don't know if you see what I'm talking about. I'm just pointing, just so you have an idea of what I'm talking about. When I was young, I did the same thing. I'm like, oh yeah, I was looking at I remember Justin Timberlake had curly hair. I had curly hair. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna copy him. Everybody likes him. Let me copy him. And so yeah. I did the same thing when I was young. And it's, that's just what you do. You grow up and you're born into a world, and we're born into society. It has this. In one way or another, kind of a fascist culture. It is not even like in the sense of like politically fascist. Just generally speaking, there's trends and stuff that exist. It's sort of like a biological fascism. You know what I mean? And that's part of kind of what I call like a collective mind of society. Okay, and trends change. They change based on kind of the ideas that are propagated, and kind of in one way or another make their way into people's minds. And whatever way it might be. For instance, Nike got popular using Michael Jordan to kind of endorse his stuff. And everybody's like, yeah, be like Mike. And Nike, went off, shoe sales and everything. And so in one way or another, and believe me, there's propagandists that's their job, advertisers, they know how to impregnate people's minds with certain ideas. And that's just what it is. When I was young, I was naive. I said, I just want these shoes because they're awesome, because they're cool, because Nike's cool. You know what I'm saying? I had no sense of any type of propagation of any ideas, anything like that. I was just like, yeah, man, I want to be like I want to be like Justin Timberlake. I want to be like that guy right there who, I'll be copying, and there's nothing wrong with that, necessarily just copying the way somebody looks or something, or, I think that's totally fine. And that's just part of who we are. But, examining it is, it's kind of a certain level of self-awareness. And, but believe me, there is a lot of intentional propagation that you might not be aware of. You just start going along with these trends and stuff. And, you might be brainwashed, mind controlled, and not even know it. I'm not going to say mind controlled necessarily, but, in one way or another. Look, I got these old ladies looking at me. I think they like me. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff like that going on. When you get older, you kind of just, you kind of fall into your own. You don't really, you can see like that woman's conservatively dressed with a nice little dress. I think that's beautiful naturally. She's not wearing any labels or anything like that. She kind of has like her own flow, her own style. You know what I mean? You fall into your own a little bit. And I'm not. I don't even know how old she is. I called her old lady. I don't really know. She looks like she might actually be younger than I first anticipated. But yeah, there's things like that people do and they don't really examine. And it's part of our everyday life, you know what I mean? And like even the way I'm dressing, even the way I talk, I've taken this from, I kind of just picked it up and just incorporated it into my own, concept of myself. And, it's worth examining. It's worth examining because, at the end of the day, you can kind of create yourself in one way or another. But really, I like to take it to like who I am biologically, who we are biologically, you know what I mean? What the human race is biologically. I like to, consider myself in like a universal context more than social. I can consider myself the character I created for myself, relative to other people in society. And I do that, every so often. I incorporate things here and there and I try to be, have my value in one way or another. But I also look at myself as a biological organism. And I say, look at who am I relative to trees? Who am I relative to other animals? Who are we, this species of humans who are on like top of the food chain, relative to the rest of the biological system, you know what I'm saying? And beyond that, we could talk about what is this planet with the biology that's all over the surface of the planet, relative to the whole universe. What kind of role does this all play in the universal scheme of things, and you can look at it, there's what I call a linear progress of the universe. And, as far as science is kind of letting us know, there's the Big Bang, and there's going to be like this heat death, this thermal, expulsion, whatever it is, a heat death of the universe, everything's expanding. And so there seems to be a linear progress. And if you want to just think about like where it all came from, that's one question. It's like, how did, I don't know. But no, there seems to be a linear progress. And in that sense, I say there's like an evolving universe. There's this linear progress. And, we're evolution, we're part of biology, and biology is naturally, it went from like simple single-celled organisms, and it's getting more and more complex and complicated. And so we're part of this biology on the planet, and this planet is just part of the universe, you know what I'm saying? And, there's this linear progress. So I'm looking at it as like, well, there's like this universal evolution. And, we're just part of that, I see. And so I think, okay, so there's universal evolution. There's Earth is part of it. Biology that's on Earth is part of it. We're part of that biology. And here we are, like the apex predators, and we play a tremendous role on the planet. We play a tremendous role in the one way I say it is like we're the new natural selection because we play such a tremendous role. We like decide what animals will live. We domesticate certain animals, other ones die. We'll cut down entire forest and replace it with like one certain type of plant if we want to farm something. We domesticate certain plants and for eating and stuff, and so we're like literally like in the biological function. We're like we're if you want to talk about survival of the fittest and all that good stuff, we're like a factor in the environment, and like we are kind of indirectly the new natural selection. And even within our own human sphere, there's like these styles and fashions, and it's like sometimes certain people might be out of style, and because of that, they're not gonna make babies. You know what I'm saying? And so that so here's what I'm trying to get to. There's a whole universal progress. Okay, the evolution of the universe. This Earth is part of it. The biology is part of it. We're part of the biology, and we, as part of biology, what role do we play? We're kind of like the new natural selection. And that natural selection, in one way or another, that's kind of governed by our ideas, opinions, and what I call the group mind. You see what I'm saying? And it's like we decide, if this is in fashion, all of a sudden this type of dog's in fashion, guess what? We're going to breed them hardcore. And the other dog's just going to wither into nothingness, you know what I'm saying? And so this group mind is really like the governing factor. It's a governing factor in at least this biosphere, okay, with the biological diversity. And I guess you can kind of extrapolate that idea into the world, and because we do things on the planet, we can, mess with stuff, and we can intelligently manipulate stuff. That's one way to say it. So, like I said, there's certain fashions, and even people. Today, nerds are out of style. Next week, they might be the big thing. You know what I'm saying? And you know what I'm saying? And like I said, there's seems to be a biological fascism. I think naturally there's a sense of beauty that exists, with some geometry and symmetry and stuff like that. Some things are just naturally beautiful, I think, and I don't know what that is. I don't know where that comes from, but I mean, I think we can sometimes all agree that something's just beautiful, whatever it might be, like a tree or a car or a dog or a cat or a human. Sometimes certain things are just aesthetically pleasing, and that to me is it must be some fundamental pattern that exists that those things are kind of going along with in one way or another. So there's that biological fascism, and maybe a lot of our our artificial selection, our opinions about things, maybe they're geared along those lines in one way or another. So maybe as much as we think, there is fashions that change. You can see it, today that's in style, tomorrow it's not. But maybe there is kind of this underlying pattern or principle that it kind of follows in one way or another. And I kind of seek that type of stuff out. And like I said, that girl with the address, I thought that was naturally beautiful. You know what I mean? And I think we might have a culture that's kind of going along with that, and that might be a good thing, because we're going to gear ourselves. We're kind of bootstrap ourselves to a more natural sense of beauty and value, as opposed to artificially, kind of almost just unnatural things, And so I'm about the natural, and I really think that might exist, a natural order that things kind of, fit into. It might be a natural, universal fascism. Look, she's gonna do it again. Got to impair herself. Do it. Okay, that was good. Good job. Yeah, so there might be a universal order that exists, and it might be part of God's plan. You know what I mean? We might not even know it. Maybe everything's developing along some universal lines of geometry or whatever, and it's maybe that's where all of our sense of good and bad comes from. Because at the end of the day, we have opinions about stuff. Like I said, you're born just like these girls, born and dressed a certain way and create a character for themselves and whatever. We don't even know why we exist. Everything exists. It just exists, and it's doing what it does, and there could be this kind of a universal pattern that things are kind of just going along and kind of maybe developing along. Maybe it's like a flower that's unfurling into its geometrically, aesthetically pleasing form. Right now it's kind of in this phase of just coming out, and petals are unfurling, but eventually it's gonna be when you're gonna see it in its full beauty. And maybe that's what's going on in the world, man. Maybe the universe, this universe is unfurling along certain lines. You know what I mean? I'm just saying. I pay attention to this type of stuff, and like I said, I there's a lot of for instance, sometimes I see let's say, and it's gonna sound weird, but I'll try to explain it. I know I just went off on some pretty universal stuff, but I'm gonna get back to human stuff. Kind of whatever. Sometimes a major, for instance, Nike. Just because it has a Nike symbol, they might make an ugly shoe and put that symbol on there. I'm like, dude, that's an ugly shoe. And it's some people buy that shoe just because it has a Nike symbol. I'm like, that is an ugly shoe. You know what I'm saying? Like aesthetically, like by the natural order of things, I think that is ugly. And just that's personal. It might be personal, but it might also be universal. And on the other hand, you can see like an aesthetically pleasing shoe in one way or another, and it could be from some off-brand. Actually, I mean, I've seen that before, and I'm like, man, I don't care if it's from Walmart. You know what I mean? I'm like, let me go ahead and it looks good. You know what I mean? Like, I don't care. They got the geometry right or something. You know what I mean? And so that's how I do it. And I think some people, like I said, they'll still buy some ugly shoes just because of the Nike symbol. I'm like, to me, that's a sign of, an underdeveloped mind. Maybe people are still in that like form of kind of, cultural value as opposed to seeing the natural value. You know what I'm saying? Like natural beauty. People are like, well, this has the Nike logo, I guess it's good. And I've seen just ugly shoes come out of Nike recently, especially. I'm like, what is that crap? You know what I'm saying? On the other hand, I see some that are not from Nike that are good looking. I'm like, you're doing good. And you can see that. You can see that a lot. And there's kind of like a natural value system versus like kind of an artificially imposed value system. Like just because it has the Nike logo, it's like you're supposed to think it's cool. It's like, but it really isn't. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I see past all that stuff. I've kind of grown into my own, I guess, and I feel like it's not just my own. I feel like it might be more of a natural appreciation of stuff. It's not like these kind of culturally inseminated ideas. You know what I mean? It's more or less like, here's the world, here's what I personally enjoy in it, and I think naturally in doing so, finding what I enjoy and stuff on my own is kind of, I've naturally just got along with a more natural order. And like I said, it might be like a universal fascism. It might be, maybe it's just this planet, maybe. What if we see, I don't know, but I don't know, maybe it's not. Maybe it's a universal, like, geometrical fascist thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, if it's going along these certain lines, it's good. If it's not, then no, and you got certain geometry, like sacred geometry. People talk about you got pi, you got tau, you got phi, the golden ratio and stuff. And you can see that stuff. And maybe all of this stuff, like I'm talking about, like there's old art from like way back when, like from famous like Michelangelo and stuff, and like Leonardo da Vinci doing stuff, and their stuff is still like aesthetically pleasing, and it hits some certain notes that exist, and like it's lasted throughout time. Maybe that's some type of universal fascism. You know what I'm saying? I can see that. I can see that being, it's like an underlying order that exists. Like, how should I say it? Like it's like a invisible criteria that you might want to try to get along with in one way or another. And there's I don't know. So I don't know. Just some thoughts, man. I know this is probably deep for some people, and I'll be thinking. I think a lot. I think about this stuff. I spend a lot of time in nature. I spend a lot of time around humans. Like I said, I grew up, trying to forge my character or whatnot, and pick up things here and there and whatever. And I was, in one way or another, going along with certain trends. But then I got a lot more natural. When I got natural, I started kind of going with natural beauty and aesthetic and whatever. And even beyond aesthetic, I feel like there's like behavior that's almost just like naturally good and naturally not, I mean, just the way that we've developed as intelligent humans, we could talk about like the physical form of stuff, but also, there is behavior, there's living, there's moving, there's interacting, there's stuff like that. And I feel like, there's even a really natural way to do that, and like a naturally functioning way to do it that makes the whole function beautiful. You know what I mean? And sometimes people have these like arbitrarily, enforced rules and stuff that kind of just funkifies it. And it's like, if we get down to a natural existence with a natural kind of movement of things, I feel like we'll get with that natural geometry or whatnot and even function beautifully. You know what I'm saying? It's so real, man. It's so real. That's why I'm kind of like I don't go along with the culturally inseminated ideas. I'm not going along with the trends you might see because I'm beyond that. I just am. I'm being honest here. And I like natural beauty. I like. Shout out to this random girl walking by. I don't really want to put my camera on her, but she don't look like she's wearing her name brands, but she's still doing her. She still has a nice little style going on. I don't want to put the camera on her. She might, I don't know, but you know what I'm saying? Like, it's natural. She found her own. I think she's kind of going along with the natural beauty as opposed to like some certain logo or something. You know what I mean? And that's good. That's good. And I think that's a sign of a mature mind in one way or another, seeing that natural beauty. And I think we are culturally, coming more towards that as opposed to kind of what it was not that long ago. And I think that's good. I think that's very good. So that being said, someone want to talk about? Look, you can look at it. But I didn't want to be rude while she saw me. I didn't want to. That might still be a little bit funky pointing the camera at her, but whatever. So yeah, I kind of do things in a more natural way because I feel like all of these arbitrarily enforced things they don't go along with that natural fascism, the natural geometry, order, beauty, whatever. So yeah, I kind of have broke all those cultural barriers. I said, well, let's get with the universal program, and I think it's good. That's why I am the way I am. That's why I got my beard. Everybody's growing beards now. I got long hair. People started doing that again recently. I'm doing me. You know what I'm saying? And the way I do it is kind of, in my opinion, kind of incorporated into a more natural order of things. And I think that's a good idea. I think culture is coming along in that same direction. So. Yeah, good stuff. Anyway, I'm gonna go see if this thing's done. Thank you guys for listening. Much love. Stay safe, stay tuned, stay woke, stay smart, stay everything. I'm out.